So for those of you that use Redox today or have been looking at Redox, our goal is to enable the frictionless exchange of data in healthcare. We have a whole team of people, about 140 these days, that focus and obsess over making integration easier so that your team doesn't have to worry about all of the nitty-gritty that goes into being able to smoothly connect and integrate and with different healthcare organizations. And you can focus on, once you have the data, what are you doing with that to create your product or make your product even more awesome? There are four main things that we really focus on and that we see have helped us be able to help our customers. We're going to be talking about two of these today, but just to review those, the first is we provide healthcare integration infrastructure. So we kind of think of ourselves similar to a concept as AWS, where you may make a choice to say, I would rather outsource this infrastructure because building it and maintaining it's really challenging and complicated. That's really what our bread and butter is that integration infrastructure for healthcare. That supports our ability to be able to support the different common industry standards. We're going to talk today about care quality specifically, but Redox is designed to work with FHIR, HL7, vendor APIs, the CCDA format, basically all of the big hitters out there that our customer base is typically trying to integrate with. And the main way that you interact with this are consistent JSON models. We currently support over 20 types of data, which basically means that if you want to get the data, we can probably help you do it in a way that's consistent instead of having to worry about handling all the differences with those different standards. And then the last part that we really focus on is making sure that your connection stays healthy. So we use automated alerts and monitoring that are running 24/7. For today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about two of these. Our first two topics are going to be some new pieces that we've added to our integration infrastructure. So the first will be talking about our data on demand feature. We've been rolling this out over the past few months, and we're really excited about it. One of the common pain points that we hear from customers, especially those that are working with patient demographic feeds, often referred to as an ADT feed in the world of HL7, is that the volume of messages that are coming through can be really overwhelming. Data on demand allows you to turn those feeds into queries, so you can interact with those in a consistent API-based REST-inspired format. The other piece of our integration infrastructure that we've been adding, and this one's in a developer preview yet, so it's not something you can use in production, but we're excited to show you what we've been doing to help improve patient identity management with our Redox record locator service. The last topic that we're going to cover is the work that we've done that's actually powered by our data on demand and record locator service to be able to allow you to connect with care quality easily and unlock nationwide interoperability and to be able to get clinical summaries. We have a great lineup of presenters today. As you can see, it's several folks from our product team as well as our engineering team. These are the people that have been living and breathing and working on these different features and offerings in the Redox platform over the past several months, and they're excited to show off what they've been up to. We're going to start first with Tristan, who's going to talk about data on demand, and I'll get him all lined up. All right, Tristan, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Everyone hear me okay? I'm going to assume yes, unless told otherwise. I'm here from Western New York, smack dab in between Buffalo and Niagara Falls. I am the engineering team lead of our data on demand engineering team, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that today. So let me share my screen here. Give me a second. And there we go. Okay. So first I want to talk a little bit about what is data on demand. Paige touched on this a little bit. In healthcare integration historically has been driven by these fire hose-like push-based event feeds. These are usually HL7 feeds. Not only is the volume of events overwhelming, but there's actually a lot of complexity in the events themselves and inconsistency in messaging and event schema as well. So with data on demand, what we were trying to do is solve what we see as a barrier to entry into healthcare integration. Essentially, in order to integrate using these HL7 push feeds, you need to ingest the data, process it, and store it. And we found that everybody seemed to have a steep learning curve when it came to doing those things. And so with data on demand, we decided, well, why don't we solve this for everyone in a way that the solution can be reused and encourage healthcare integration and lower that barrier to entry. So essentially, we built a very scalable system that can ingest these push-based event feeds, persist the data in a scalable way and in a relational way such that anyone on the Redox network can then query those health systems data in a REST-inspired way, as Paige mentioned. So again, this kind of touches on the minimum barrier to entry for healthcare integration, which is you need to do a number of minimum things in your architecture in order to integrate with a health system. You consume the fire hose, ingest the data, transform it into whatever schema you're going to persist it, and then you persist the data, and then somehow you've got a data access or a read layer that's combining that healthcare system data with your product data in order to provide some sort of cohesive product offering. What are some of the complexities here, right? That last diagram seemed easy enough. It's not simple doing those just what seem to be simple tasks for the minimum viable architecture of integration. Patient identification is very inconsistent across health systems. Not only is it inconsistent and different identifier types are used at different health systems, but there's 5 to 10% of duplicate patient records. Okay, so that means you also need to worry about when those health systems perform patient merges. These different health systems have varying levels of automation or manual processes that merge patients on a regular basis. And so you actually have to handle that if you're trying to mirror that data for your own product. Handling patient merge is not simple because you've got two records, which essentially both have critical information for a patient that need to be merged into a single record. So it's not like you can just choose one or the other. The data really needs to be aggregated, which goes into a much bigger complexity in that data aggregation is much bigger than just patient merge. It really spans across all the different possible events you could get on an HL7 feed, which means that you actually have to treat the different events different ways and do some custom aggregation and custom upsert into your data store based on the event or the data model. For example, patient ADT events are really, the more purely definition of events. There's patient admitted, patient discharged, patient transferred, whereas clinical document events are actually snapshots. They're point in time pieces of information that aren't really meant to be aggregated. So you really need to handle these different events in different ways. Some require aggregation, some require just overwriting. And so there's this custom upserting logic that you really need to build into your application if you're going to do this right. And the last complexity is first in, first out processing. In some of these streams of events, order does matter. And so if order does matter for some of the events in a feed, really it matters for all of them in order to guarantee that order. And FIFO processing introduces a number of complexities. For example, what if there's an error? How do you make sure that you stop processing events while still maintaining the order of those events with the ability to timely resolve that error and then replay or resume the events in order to maintain that FIFO processing. So all of these are complexities that you really need to worry about just to start ingesting and storing that healthcare data. So moving on. Okay, let's say you've kind of solved that for integrating with a single health system. But usually the goal of a healthcare technology product or innovation is not to just integrate with a single health system. It's to scale your integration across many health systems, tens, hundreds, or thousands if your product is really successful. So you introduce a whole new number of challenges that you need to deal with. The first one is normalize. your ingestion layer now needs to worry about the fact that all of these fire hoses actually are sending data in different formats. The message schemas are not normalized. The standards are not opinionated enough. And so there needs to be some level of normalization across each one of these healthcare data feeds in order to normalize it to the schema that you want to save it in. Not only that, but there's some non-functional worries here that some of these health systems could be extremely high volume. Your big health systems like Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, these probably have much higher volume feeds than smaller providers or smaller health systems in less densely populated areas. So somehow your architecture needs to be able to consume all of these without having those larger, more higher volume feeds strangling out the lower volume feeds into your system. So some of the challenges of scaling healthcare integrations, I already talked about normalization. A good example of this is we experienced this when we were processing lab results, that some labs will actually send updates to patient lab orders with lab results, and some labs will send actual snapshots with the full lab result every single time. You have to be able to recognize that and recognize the difference between those labs and how they're sending those events, and process those accordingly so that you have a consistent normalized representation of the data across any health system, and in this case, labs. The other challenge we found was now that we were integrating with several health systems, we needed to make sure that that data was segregated and that there was no chance of the data permeating across these different health systems. But at the same time, we were finding that our operational costs in using separate siloed infrastructure for each health system was very linear. And we saw our operational costs and our onboarding and provisioning costs essentially being linear to the pace at which we wanted to scale, which just was not okay. So we had to do some re-architecting and create a multi-tenant shared infrastructure architecture that allowed for automated and dynamic provisioning. That was key for us to be able to reach the scale that we wanted to reach. And without doing so, it's really hard to scale and onboard without having linear costs, multi-day engineering efforts just to onboard, provision, and maintain all the different healthcare system integrations on the platform. Okay, so I've kind of flown through that a little bit, but I wanted to at least get to some demoing here of what I just talked about. Some of the things I want to demo is what I just mentioned, is our ability to onboard new health systems to ingest, process, and persist their data within minutes on the Redox platform. I'll show a little bit about how our architecture is horizontally scalable, how we use independent layers of our architecture that can be independently scaled, how our services are agnostic to the health system data that they're processing, yet we use independent streams for each health system to ensure that the data is segregated. And I'll show that we could query that health system data that we've onboarded within minutes after we've onboarded the health system's data and started persisting it. So to get started, I'm going to go into the Redox dashboard, and I'm actually going to create a, well, apparently I'm going to log in first. And then I'm going to create a new destination for health systems data. Give me 1 second here. All right, so we're going to create a destination that is going to be used for ingesting the data of a new health system on the Redox platform. Call it a demo destination. All right. So within just a couple of minutes, we've actually provisioned that those event streams for the new health system to start ingesting data, and we've provisioned the infrastructure to start saving that health system's data to a separated partition in our data store. So all we really need to do is start subscribing to that health system's data. So we're going to subscribe to all the patient admin events from one of my test sources. We are now subscribed, and I'm actually going to use a tool that we use for putting volume and load on the Redox platform. And what this is going to do is send 10,000 patient admin events and essentially emulate 4 different health systems sending 10,000 patient admin events simultaneously into our data on demand ecosystem. All right, so our data is starting to be sent. And I can show you that we are starting to ingest that data in our new platform using our metrics dashboard. So our metrics dashboard is showing our throughput essentially through each layer of our architecture, and it shows our throughput on a per environment basis here, per health system basis. And so if I refresh this, I should start seeing data coming through. And here we go. We've got data coming in for 4 different health systems. And there's our 10x demo health system. And this will shoot up pretty quickly, our throughput. But I do want to be conscious of time here. So as we start ingesting data, I'm going to show you that we can immediately query for some of the new patients that are being ingested into that new health system. For that, I'm just going to use Postman, and I'm going to post a patient query event, querying for one of the patients that's being ingested in our new health system by that patient's identifier. So you can see here, I queried by that patient's identifier, and I've got that full patient record back here. This is all synthetic patient data, so don't worry, I am not sharing any PHI here. Should put all Redoxers on the call at ease. So again, this dashboard is showing our throughput through all the different layers of our architecture. Each one of these layers, our ingestion, projection, and persistent service layers, are horizontally scalable. So if we saw any of those layers throughput falling behind our other layers, we can actually independently scale those up in order for our different health system feeds, the high volume feeds, to not strangle out any of the other lower volume feeds. So that is it. To wrap things up, some points that I really want to drive home: that doing this is really complex. I kind of flew through a lot of the complexity and the challenges, but ultimately mirroring data is an anti-pattern. Trying to maintain a mirror image of a health system or any data in any industry is really an anti-pattern. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's hard. So one thing I would ask is, does storing this data actually add any value to your product? Is it worth the investment, or is it just essentially a sunk cost that you feel like you have to invest in order to make your product work? And if the answer to that is yes, well, Redox wants to kind of give you another option to not have to do that. We built data on demand to be centralized infrastructure that removes barrier to entry and reduces that scaling friction that's experienced in healthcare integration. So if you want more information, feel free to reach out to either your Redox representative or someone will be available to talk to, I'm sure. Paige, I'll kick it back to you.
Great, thanks, Tristan. I'm dropping the questions in the Ask a Question section. As I mentioned, we probably won't be able to get through all of these, but we'll collect those and be able to do some follow-ups. I also did drop a link to our developer docs, so you can learn more about data on demand. This is a feature that you can start using now. It's something that's available. It's not available across all of our data models yet, but it's available across our most common ones, including patient admin, which is patient demographics, scheduling, and our clinical summary data models. There's also a poll if you want to take a look at that and respond. We always love to hear how it is that people are integrating today, so let us know. And with that, I'm going to now turn it over to Alvin Lowe and Matt Duke, who have been working on our patient identity management solution, the Redox record locator service. So Alvin and Matt, make sure to tell us where you're joining from today, and maybe a sneak peek about what it's like where you're living. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Paige. So my name is Alvin. My last name is Lowe, L-O-H. I think we might have it here in the slides, or it's probably in our presenter descriptions as a link to this crowdcast. I'm coming from Seattle, Washington. We have some extremely beautiful weather here today. It is not raining, and it's sunny, and it's nice and warm. It's probably 80 degrees or something. It's just perfect weather. So happy to be here, to be able to chat with all of you today about what we're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and share my screen. And actually, let's see here. Yeah, let me go and share my screen. I'm going to presenting. All right, cool. So I'm heading up the team that here at Redox that's building our Redox record locator service. And what we're really trying to do is we're really trying to simplify patient identity management for all of our customers. And so we're really excited to be here to be able to talk about integrating more and coding lists. Okay, so one of the first things that happened when I got started in this space was I went out and I talked to a whole bunch of our customers. And one of the common things that we saw happening was a lot of our customers were out there building very similar patient identity management code in like their applications. And they were all doing this in slightly different ways, and they were all doing this in slightly different code bases. And so it became immediately apparent that, oh, perhaps this is something that actually Redox should provide to our customers. And as we dug into it more, we started to learn from our customers too that they were hearing from health systems that, one, when they go ahead and, for example, when they try to schedule a patient at a hospital, at a health system, sometimes they can't query to determine if that patient exists or not. And so what ends up happening is they just create a brand new patient and then they send it over to the health system. And then that ends up being a bit of a data quality issue for the health system, because later on they have to have their data team go in and actually find these duplicate patient records and then like merge them or eliminate them. And so we started to realize that, oh, we've got our customers that are spending all this time building out this patient identity management code that's specific to them, and potentially they're creating on the other side of it a bit of a data quality nightmare at the health system. And we thought, okay, we definitely can solve this problem. And so what we've developed with the Redox record locator service is a single REST-based API that can help you locate a patient across multiple health systems. And we also have an API call that will allow you to search for a patient. And if that patient doesn't exist, we will go out there and try to create that patient for you in the target EHR. Some of the other things that we're able to do is right now we're returning an exact match. So if you're searching for a patient, we'll give you when you provide us like name and like other basic like demographic information, we'll return an exact match. The other thing that a lot of our customers have asked for too that have tested this out is that they've asked us to be able to query all of their active Redox connections, or potentially like a subset, because sometimes there might be 2 or 3 hospitals that are grouped together and they want to be able to search across those, but not across every single one of their connections. The other thing that we do is we are capable of hooking our patient admin messages from the health system for real-time updates. And so what this does is that if there's a patient that happens to walk in through the front door of the health system, we will get a notification that happens. and we will go. And so in the future, if you're searching for that patient, we will know that that patient exists, and we'll be able to find you like the correct MRN. The other thing too is we also have this single patient finder create API, which I mentioned, and this again is fundamentally just going to be able to provide you a single API where you can search to determine if a patient exists, and if not, we'll go ahead and create that MRN for you, and then we'll return you that MRN so you can go ahead and use it for whatever scenario is important for your app. We also have the capability of being able to optionally backload specific patient data that customers might have, or data from a health system, so that our API can search across all of that as well. And so that's just a little bit about what we're doing in the record locator space. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Matt Duke, and he'll give you a live demo of what we've developed.
All right. Thanks, Alvin. So I'm Matt Duke. I'm in Chicago. Right now, we're enjoying a heat wave, 90s. Mostly hiding inside at the moment, but hopefully by the weekend, weather gets a little bit better here. So I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of what Alvin was talking about with some demos using Postman, like Tristan did earlier. So we'll just walk through that quickly again. Here we have the API endpoint that shows who you're authorized as, or we're operating as the RLS demo org. Like I mentioned, you can query to see what connections you have available. We'll be we'll be connecting to the ONC sample data set. And so here's the good stuff, which is the patient search. So as mentioned, you can limit which organizations you're searching by just applying this property. Then you have your patient search field with demographics, at a minimum, first name, last name, date of birth. And so when you do this search, you'll get back results grouped by the organization, and you'll see the identifiers for the different patients that we believe are potential matches. We do have variants of this API where, for example, you can search an individual organization, and that's going to look exactly like our regular patient search request response flow. Outside of that, we also have the Finder Create functionality. In this case, we provide a sandbox HCO that will respond to these new patient messages. So really quickly, if you search for a patient that already exists, you're going to get back a 201 created with that patient information, including identifiers. Here, our sandbox HCO had generated an ID previously. However, if you try to create a patient that we don't yet exist, you'll get back a 200 indicating that we're working on it. And you're given back a task ID that you can use to query on and see the result of that search. So we also provide an endpoint for you to inspect what's happening with all these tasks. There's a lot of different filters available. For now, we're just going to use the ID list, which is just going to limit to tasks with this ID. It's going to provide you a lot of information, including a series of events, so you can track what's happening on our end. The most important one we're looking for is this match record, which indicates that we've been monitoring the patient admin feed that's coming out of HCOs. We found a match to the task that we generated, so we do all the work of lining that up for you. You can just go back and call with either the demographics or with the task ID, and you'll see that we've created a patient for you, along with any identifiers that the HCO has generated. So that's all for our demo, and I'll hand it back to Alvin.
Thanks, Matt. Paige, I'm not sure if you're able to switch the screen back to my slides. Okay, cool. I think that works. So that's just a little bit of a taste of what we have going on with our record locator service. Some of the things that we're working on next is to sort of take the natural next step from providing an exact match for patients to a fuzzy search. So you can provide maybe slightly inaccurate information or less information, and we'll attempt to still find you like the correct patient and give you a list of patients and you can pick the right one. And then the other thing that we're working on too is we're building on a set of APIs that will allow you to search for patients inside of Care Quality. And so that's something we're super excited about and we're working on right now. Let us know what you think. If you'd like to get access to our developer preview, our dev documents, and a sandbox to be able to test out our record locator service, please go to redoxengine.com/RLS, and there's a little form there, and you can sign up. Or if you already have an in to Redox, please let one of somebody on our staff know, and they'll definitely put you in touch with us. And with that, thanks so much for your time.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Alvin and Matt. There's a button down at the bottom that will take you to the webpage that Alvin just mentioned. So if you're interested in accessing the developer preview to kick the tires and send some feedback to us, we're looking for that. So we'd love to have you do it. I also dropped in another poll question. So if you haven't checked those out, go ahead and give us some answers. It helps us better understand what you're working on and how we can help. The last piece that we're going to cover today is working with Care Quality. If you're not familiar with what Care Quality is, don't worry. Brendan's going to start by doing a quick overview of what that is. But Redox recently got certified or became an implementer for Care Quality. So we're excited to add that to the standards that we are able to support for our customers. What's exciting about this too, as I mentioned earlier, is that both data on demand and our record locator service are part of our infrastructure that allow us to offer something really unique with Care Quality. We've got a few different variations. Some are ready to go and are live, and we're using them with customers. We've got a few others in beta that we're looking for some participants for. So I'm excited to turn over to Brendan so he can tell you more. He's definitely the Care Quality wizard. And we will also have Brian joining to do a bit of a demo so you can see something else we're working on that's also in beta. Brendan, I'll turn over to you. Let us know where you're at and what it looks like out your window today.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Some technical difficulties, which is, I think, just a sign of our Zoom and crowdcast-filled times with these web conferences. But I'm Brendan Keeler. I'm a product owner here at Redox. And over the past year, I've been working on our Care Quality offering pretty heavily. So I'd like to walk you through today what that is, how you can benefit as a developer. I'm currently in Denver. I live in Portland, Oregon, but I'm here for my brother's wedding. So that's exciting. Outside my window, I can see, unfortunately, some smoke as there's been some fires in the surrounding regions. So not so great, but I'm excited to tell you all about Care Quality. So let me just move over and present. So what is Care Quality and what does it offer you? And in the shortest summary, it's nationwide interoperability. It's really broad reach for simple operations to pull patient data. So by layering on top of networks such as Care Quality, Commonwealth, and Direct Trust, we can offer developers in health technology companies the ability to do operations such as the clinical summary read through Care Quality, or a write back of information through the Direct Trust network. And what's nice about this is through one simple agreement, rather than a business associate agreement with every hospital, you can perform these operations with 70% of providers nationwide. So that's the vision of Care Quality in a nutshell. It's a centralized data sharing agreement that says by following certain rules and regulations that you get broad access across the healthcare spectrum. This is drastically different than the traditional way of integration, where after selling a product to a hospital, negotiating that business associate agreement, you have to go to the next place, the next clinic, the next healthcare setting and sign a new agreement. With that breadth, you get document-based clinical data exchange across that distributed network of connected healthcare organizations. So with that in mind, many applications, your patient portals, your telehealth, and expect that by connecting once and getting that breadth of information, they're able to do everything they need and deploy into hospitals quicker. And there's some validity with that, with going through the Care Quality implementer certification process and becoming and getting connected. You certainly can get that breadth. But as an application, you often need that deeper integration, the operations that aren't supplied through care quality. So with Redox, we can help simplify and normalize all the transactions you'll need to connect to healthcare organizations. Our one simple format can be used nationwide with care quality, as well as with those deeper integrations that you'll do with the provider organizations that you have deep relationships with. Using our data on demand product, we can also simplify when a provider organization doesn't offer that query, when they can only push that information. Again, sort of using that same API for many operations across your use cases. So what's the value added on top of care quality as we simplify your experience? First and foremost, this middle part of reducing your onboarding time. Going through the certification process can be painful on your own. With Redox as your certified implementer, you're limited only by the speed at which you can develop to the APIs. As soon as you're able to connect to Redox, you're able to connect to the entirety of the care quality network. So rather than go through 6 months or longer trying to certify and prove yourself with multiple implementers, you can connect once to Redox and scale very rapidly. In addition, we offer organizational directory tools that layer on top of what's offered by care quality to simplify your experience and make sure that you stay up to date on the organizations you can reach. Lastly, with our gateway and responder options, we can offer identity management across the constituent healthcare organizations you work with to reduce the query volume that you see inbound from the many implementers that may query your sites. We also offer using Data on Demand, partition data stores so that when there's queries inbound, we can respond on your behalf. Again, lifting some of the infrastructural burden on you as you develop up to the APIs. So next, we'd like to show you a demo of the care quality sandbox we have in place that is currently in beta. My colleague Brian Morante is going to walk through these steps with you and show you how you can connect and test starting today.
Thanks, Brendan. Can everyone hear me okay? I heard an echo with Brendan, so I assume that it's all good. Let me try to clear the last technical hurdle here and share my screen. Hopefully that should be showing up for everyone. And from this point forward, I trust someone will break in if there's any issues, technically speaking. So my name is Brian. I'm also a product owner here at Redox. I'm calling in from the Motor City, Detroit, Michigan, and it's a beautiful day outside. So what I wanted to walk through is related to care quality. It's also kind of a first example of a wider initiative that we have at Redox to kind of empower our developers to have more autonomy in creating and managing their various connections. So this is a small tool that we've built that we're still adding to. This is all very new to guide where a user can guide themselves through setting up a free connection to our care quality sandbox environment so that they can start to get familiar with how they might access a patient document from a variety of different health systems that we have available in our staging environment with sample patient data. So in walking through this connection wizard that we have, it's pretty simple. All you really need to do is just follow these 4 steps that are presented here. And from there, you'll have everything you need to start sending some practice queries. So I'll click Get Started. We will create a source, and those who are familiar with Redox already will recognize that. If you aren't, a source is essentially just a collection of an API key and a secret that you'll use when you want to send data to us so that we know it's you and we can deliver the information. So I will say whatever I want here. And this is kind of the really cool new portion for Redox as well, is we're actually able to take this source that we're going to create for you and automatically make subscriptions, connect them to the various staging directories that we have for searching for an organization in care quality, looking for a patient, as well as clinical documents for that patient. This has previously been a step that has required Redox assistance, so it kind of fits that banner of putting power in the hands of the developers. Excuse me. So I'll go ahead and click this and cross my fingers with our beta wizard here. If not, revert to my backup plan because this is all quite new. Give this a few seconds. Perfect. Right at the moment, I almost gave up. Here we are. So at this point, that's actually, I could stop the demo here. This is everything that I need to make a connection, but we have a few more useful things for you here. So for this source that we created, we've also generated a few other things that will be helpful for you in testing. One, we've generated a sample OID or OID for you. This is sort of the universal identifier that you would use to say who you are in care quality queries, as well as this is how you'll talk to other organizations by using their OID. Your API key, this is for this source that we just created. You'll use this in testing, as well as a secret that you'll need to copy first time, or you can come back here and regenerate it if you want. Let me go ahead and copy that. After this, currently, we're linking you out to technical documentation to be able to walk through this. I'll show that as well. This takes you through everything you might want to know for let's search for an organization, let's search for a patient. So really be walked through those API calls. There's also a link to a Postman collection in this document that you can use to test things out. So hopefully the screen share stays with me here, but I'm just going to switch really quickly over to Postman. And you can see we've got some things teed up for you here quite nicely. So you can authenticate using that API key and secret that we just generated for you in our wizard here. These values, and paste those in. And let me take this as well. So as you can see, it's a real connection. It really worked. We know who you are, and we've given you a response back. Now I can use this to start getting familiar with care quality, see how requests look, see what the responses look like, and start to get a feel for how I might build my application against this and see if it is the right fit for me as a solution. So there's a variety of different options here. You can look at the organizational directory, which is how you find and create new facilities in the care quality directory. We also have a variety of test partners here with sample data if you want to practice and see. So for example, we can go into, let me just update this field quickly. We can go into our sample organization query that we have here and say, what does it look like if I want to search for an organization? And I can read through and see, for example, here, we're searching for, is there an organization named Redox? And if so, can you tell us about them? So I'll go ahead and send that query. It turns out there is. It gives us information about that. So then I can use that information to say, oh, hey, Redox, this is your identifier. How about if you've seen this patient? So you'll be able to do that with all of these test partners as well. For example, we have a sample patient search in here as well, where you can say, I'm not sure exactly what their ID number is, but I have a patient that has this type of information, demographics, date of birth, those types of things. I want to ask the staging version of Epic, do you have any information for this person? Oops, and I messed it up. But they will say, yes, we do. And they will give you back, oh, I know exactly what I messed up. Easy enough. They will say, yes, we do. And here is information on them. I messed that up too. But you can use this test package to proceed all the way through searching for an organization, locating a patient, you can then do a document search to see, okay, I know my patient ID, any documents for them, and then from there you can pull down a document all within this sandbox connection that, as you saw, it took a minute or so to set up, and this is available for free. So we will include a link there to sign up at redoxengine.com/carequality. I'll also drop my email in the chat if anyone has direct feedback. We're very interested in overall feedback on this. We have a link here in the wizard, as well as additional ways that any developers in the audience might like to test and verify against the sandbox, in addition to Postman, just what other methods you use. So thanks very much, and I will pass it back.
Thanks, Brian. That's it for me too. So I think I'll pass it back to Paige, and that concludes the webinar.
All right. Thanks all. I just dropped the last link in there that has a page that will have all the links that we've put in today in case you missed any of those as we were swapping between them. I want to make sure to say thanks to all of our presenters. I'm going to get that up somewhere. So thanks to all of our presenters. If there's anybody whose name you wanted to write down to be able to connect with on LinkedIn or to ask your Redox contact, how you can get in touch with them, here are the folks that we worked with that spoke today. And just as a reminder, we're here to make healthcare data exchange easier. So definitely reach out to our team. If you're already working with us and heard something today that you're interested in, make sure to reach out to your Redox representative and we'll be able to help you out. We are at time, so we've been answering the questions in the comments in the questions and answers section, as well as we've dropped some into the chat directly. I've tried to put those onto the questions and answers section. So I'll leave it up for a few minutes so folks can take a look and see make sure your questions gotten answered. I hope everybody's had a great day and learned a little bit more about Redox. Bye.